All right, let's appreciate what
Bertbert.
what we just read. This is kind of ridiculous. This wall here.
But we'll have to
What?
read it all just 'cause all of you
This is
people out
kind of
there,
ridiculous.
Bertbert.
Now we're up to Bertbert. So when we started reading it, there's seven crowns. So that means that there's seven of these stories, and going by the length of that first one,
That was ridiculous.
we're 1/7 of the way through. So, and I'm reading this whole thing. I just want to let you know I'm not skipping any of this.
I don't want to be around for it.
I'm reading the whole thing. So I hope you guys are patient.
I don't want to be around.
I'm reading
for
the
it.
whole thing, and I'm providing commentary.
Yeah, we're making more videos and more videos as we
All right.
go on. We stop like
Bertbert.
a half and
So
a
let's-
quarter.
So strap in. Bertbert. Quater made his next being with a form closer to his own. He attempted to duplicate himself, but because he was not as good of a man-builder as father, the being was not quite a perfect duplicate. Bertbert was given powers of speech and reason, but he could not grasp that he was different from Quater. He thought he was Quater and instantly made 7 of his own crowns and started making his own people in his own image. Because Bertbert was an even worse being maker than Quater, each generation looked worse and worse. So we have some degeneration here. By the last generation, Bertbert's beings were not even alive. They just looked like blobs of meat. Like Super Meat Boy, that game that you play.
No, but the meat, the meat is alive. You see, the meat has
Okay.
powers. The lineage of Bert.
The lineage of Bertbert. Empowered by Quater to create, Bertbert, believing that he himself was Quater, begat another Bertbert. This second Bertbert begat Breadbad, a weak attempt at Bertbert, but with a speech impediment. Breadbad was a wise being, the most wise of all, it has been said, although no one knows exactly who said that, but it stuck. He did not write down any of his wisdom, but his son, Bridabrac, the literal transcribed Breadbad's lectures.
Yeah, but if he makes Bertbert, then Bertbert's gonna think he is him. So then he's gonna keep on making more and more Bertberts, and the generation of Bertberts will go on forever.
It's this line here.
He's probably a Bertbert. It leads to a special things. So go to the end and you'll see what I mean.
Well, we gotta read this whole thing. We're not just walking to the end. We're reading this whole thing.
I know, I'm not gonna be around for that. Hands in the
I'm gonna
air.
be in. I might be in this room alone reading this whole thing, but I'm reading it. The wisdom
Yeah,
of
James,
Breadbad.
Tell me when you're done reading all of this and you're at the end, the final picture. Actually, call me in every single
You see,
time
this
you
is what they
finish
do.
it.
They want me to do these videos, and then they abandon me, and then I'm just doing it alone in my room.
Yeah, right. Like I want to hear the whole thing.
Okay.
'Cause I don't.
The wisdom of Breadbad.
Call me over when you did when you find another picture. Call me over every time there's a
No one even watches my videos anyway, so what does it matter? The wisdom of Breadbad, the son of Bertbert. The son of Bertbert. I am not good by nature, nor am I naturally happy. But if I fall, it is a fault of my own, not my mom or my pappy. I have been the witness of 1,000 fallen. For this I am not fortunate. For me it is torture-nate. I ponder these till I am withered and sullen. Power is pleasant if served under glass, or eaten like pheasant, causing my voice to rasp. It's like poems here. The killer be killed, the dancing man stilled, when bees of plenty sting my heart many. I emaciate, thinner, thinner, thinner. Found are the 3 ways of Babylon. Babylon. Fear. These are the 3 ways of Babylon, but without the Y. So I don't know. So here's the first one. Number 1, fear. It eats itself like a snake down a hill and finds nourishment there. I wonder if these are clues for something later. I beat this game before, so I know they're not. But, I like to pretend that I didn't. The bigger it gets, the more it eats until it is everywhere. Number 2, greed. Unlike fear, it shrinks until the snake is something small and despicable, smelling like a torch when mixed with hair. Number 3, vanity. Is the snake thinking he has strong legs that can jump the stream? He floats belly up when caught in his snare. I will share with you my comings and goings if you will listen. You will join me on these journeys if you hasten. We will perish if you do not. Bertbert, having no point of reference but himself, begat Bridabrac, the literal, who begat Brickback. Bickback. Bickback was thin for his age, and his peers mocked him for the purple and green skin splotches that covered his body. Ugh. Once a large crowd of descendants of Bertbert had formed. Poor Bickback was made to sit in the back. He tried to hide his sadness by pretending to enjoy the back of the crowd. It was there that he met the rest of the back of the crowd. They were pitiful beings suffering from physical maladies almost as bad as his splotches. I'm wondering, because now there's a crowd of people, so he must have these begats must have begat other lots of begats. So there must have been a lot of incest going on, like in the Bible or something, with Bertbert's people. A distant cousin named Highface offered to stand behind Bickback so that it would seem like he was not in the absolute back of the crowd, but Bickback chose to emulate the cruelty of the rest of the group by pointing out Highface's... Is it Highface or Highface? Abnormality. A tiny second head growing from his palm. He sang a song about a thing with a thing hiding in its palm. Everyone laughed at Highface for a while and praised Bickback for his entertaining and funny verse. Highface confronted Bickback regarding this display of cruelty, but Bickback sang the song again until Highface ran home crying. The crowd acknowledged that Bickback was witty, but they still could not let him go to the front of the crowd because of those awful splotches. This gave Bickback an idea. One morning Bickback went to great lengths to hide his splotches. Using some dust, he coated himself until finally his peers found him beautiful. They quickly escorted him to the front of the crowd, where he was commanded to write more songs about the beings in the back of the crowd. Bickback wrote songs of cruelty and prejudice about them all that is except for one in the back row. He hoped that the front of the crowd would not notice that he was intentionally overlooking his brother, Little, who was retarded and therefore the most back of the whole back row. But alas, someone noticed. "Now, Bickback, let us have a song about Little," the crowd screamed. Oh, the whole crowd sang that? I can't emulate a whole crowd saying that. They figured that Bickback was saving a song about Little until the end, since it would be the funniest and easiest to write, given the subject matter. Bickback looked across the crowd at Little, who could only stare at the ground. Little was pitiful in his brother's sight, and Bickback hated him for not being perfect. Bickback walked over to his brother, who was drooling and looking very stupid. Little recognized his brother and decided to hug him hard, the way he always had. Little reached out and hugged Bickback, saying, "Little like Bix." It's probably more like, "Little like Bix." Or "Little like Bix." I don't know. Getting more offensive the more I try it. The crowd roared with laughter at Little. They found his audacity to touch someone from the front row typical of his level of stupidity. Embarrassed, Bickback threw Little to the ground and called him an animal. Little was shocked and began to cry. Bickback looked down at his drool-covered arms. The drool had wiped away some of his dust covering, exposing the horrible hated splotches. Bickback openly wept face down on the ground. Little crawled over to him and held him. The crowd was uncomfortable. No one knew what to do. Just then, Bickback wiped his eyes and announced, "I have a song about the pitiful members of the back of the crowd." Those in the back of the crowd figured that this would be the most degrading song yet. The front of the crowd cheered. Little drooled. Bickback sang in a voice so beautiful that to this day no song has been written to compare. This is what he sang. "In this life I have found one thing. It is a pity incarnate of which I sing. You have been told about the back of the crowd, and I repeat it plenty loud. That they are animals to be excused, as hapless freaks which we shall use, as latter rungs for our speedy ascent to the front of the crowd, where we'll invent a strict system of attractive and not. On which side of the net will you be caught? Align me, please, with the crowd's back. The front can for what I care go to hack. With their own standards based their small group. If given the choice 'tween accepting many or few, I will love the different and accept the whole crowd. I will sing of my world long and loud. In my world I say that we the low be tall, and so brother Little is greatest of all." The entire crowd fell silent as Bickback walked over to his brother and held him. He whispered in Little's ear, "I'm so sorry I've been a big fool." Little still just drooled. Some members of the crowd heeded Bickback's song and embraced the entire crowd. Others did not, and made it their full-time concern to re-establish the lines between the front and back of the crowd. Bickback lived a happy life. He wed Phyllis, a demure little lady, also from the back of the crowd. He begat Macmock, which means low is high. Macmock begat Macmac, who begat Macmac, who begat Macmac, who begat Macmac, who fashioned a two-sided being, which included both genders, male and female, one on either side. It was a colossal being named... oh boy. Is it Macmac? Mamur, okay. Who was very proud indeed. It considered itself absolutely complete, lacking nothing, and independent from its creator, Mac. Mac could not stand for such conceit, so he made a huge crowbar, with which he pried the being into two parts, a male being named Mean, and a female being named Mavi. It took all of Mac's strength to pry the two halves apart, and when Mammer finally split, it sent the crowbar hurtling out into space. As soon as the two half-beings saw that they were no longer a singular whole, they started trying to put themselves back together. Again, and they have been trying to put themselves back together ever since. Mammer, or Mean and Mavi, then begat Maumut. Maumat. And the sons of Maumat were Maumuk and Marzim, and Matup and Manak. And the sons of Maumuk were Mabes and Maliva and Magbas, and Mamar and Makatebas. And the sons of Mamar are Mabesh and Maded. Now Maded became the father of Mormin, who became a mighty florist in his town. He was a mighty florist before Quater. Therefore it is said, like Mormin, a mighty florist before Quater. He's a Mormon, too. I don't know if... didn't know they had Mormons in the world of whatever this world of Bertbert is. And the beginning of this kingdom is consisted of Daisy World. Okay, I guess it's Daisy World. I guess Daisy World is the land of Bertbert. And Rosebud and Tulip Crime. Okay? Tulip Crime. Tulip Crime. And the land of Rainish. Where they came up from with these names, I do not know. Tolkien they are not. From that land he went forth into Milpitas, and built Hivoni, and T, and Hoot, and Resinsesin, between Hivoni and T. I think that's an I there. That is the great city. And Mormin became the father of Medul and Mimana, and Mabahil and Mabahel and Mehutfan and Mesurthap and Mehulsak, from which came the peons. But pea with, like pee-pee, peons, peeing on the peons, because you pee on them. And Muratfak and Mixed Math and the evil twins. And Mesurthap became the father of Modus, his firstborn, and Mathbath, the Quergenites, and Lolo, I remember that, that was a Nintendo game, and the Lolo men, and Philodendrites, and the Shrub people, and Clay Wanters, and the...
I'm back, and I finally decided to join in with all of you people who are probably not still listening to all of this junk that really doesn't need to fill your brain unless you're a guy for history or gal
for made up history.
Yeah.
Neo-Resin-Sessinites.
Wait, was there a picture?
We're not up to the picture yet. And the Briv.
I wonder what he looks like. Don't you?
Well, he supposedly looks like Quater, but we don't know what Quater looks like. And
so we'll know what Quater looks like.
Yeah.
By seeing a picture of him.
And the Monachite, and afterward the families of the Monachite were spread abroad. And the territory of the Monachite extended from Nodis as you go toward Modoc, Delano, and Truckee, and Chester, and Alteras.
And I'm spinning in a circle.
As far as Lake Almanor. So these were the sons of Maumat according to their families. according to their languages, by their lands, by their nations. Modus begat Ma Min,
Oh my
who
god.
decided to wear a purple hood instead of a crown. Ma Min begat Ma Ne, who liked hoods a lot, but hated his father's purple hood. So in rebellion,
Oh god.
he went back to the crown-wearing tradition of previous generations. This gesture pleased Quater so much that Ma Ne was simply caught up into the presence of Quater to live forever in peace with father, but not before he was able to create a poor likeness of himself, Mei Ni, who begat Wei Ni.
What was his name again? The main guy? Other than Quater and Father?
Well, Bertbert is like the father of all these guys. Who begat Phua Gi, the founder of the famous Phua Ah nation. Who begat Phepat, who begat Phep Pi, who begat Phe, who liked to sing loving songs for his sons. He sang by expelling air from between 5 flaps of flesh on his back. Phe sang this way as a sincere gesture of love for his many sons. It's pretty wacky, huh? Singing with flaps on your back. But the perpetual honking and flapping of his songs echoed up the ears of Quater, who after many years of tolerance could finally take it no more. Quater smote Phe with a bolt of energy so intense that nobody ever found a trace of his body. Phe was destroyed in the prime of his life, but not before he was able to create 13 sons. Phe's 13 sons were Cloth, Cluff, Clow, Klimpt, Cleft, Clack, Clink, and 5 sons, all of whom Phe named Clopenhamwinkwix, because he could not think of another name until the birth of his last son, Klee. In the Phua legends are the stories of Phe and his 13 sons. Phe's favorite son was named Klee, meaning, give me more like this one. Phe often had his sons watch the Phua cattle herd in an attempt to teach them the value of hard work and the responsibility of caring for the herd. Phua cattle had 3 genders, female, he-male, and 3-male. 3 males had the gender characteristics of all 3 genders. When the females were nursing, they exuded Phua jerkins from their hide. Phua jerkins were the staple of the Phua diet. Klee was the youngest of Phe's sons, yet he was also the most responsible, and he was the only one who listened when Phe spoke to his sons. The legends Phep Pi told him of father and Quater. The other sons spent most of their life listening to their father's songs, but avoiding work, dreaming of ways to spend their inheritance as soon as their father died.
But their father did die.
Yeah, because he got smote. On the other hand, Klee spent his time tending the family herd of Phua cattle with such care that many thought it was his own herd. It was the largest herd of Phua cattle in the nation of Phua Ah, next to the emperor's own herds, and Phe certainly appreciated Klee's care. To show his appreciation, he slaughtered his finest Phua calf and had the hide made into a fine pair of shorts for Klee. Phe's other sons considered Klee an obstacle to their fun, so they started spending a portion of their time planning ways to get rid of him. When Klee was out herding the Phua cattle with his brothers, he would often bring back a bad report to his father of how the other sons abused the herd and often secretly sold Phua jerkins for their own profit. Klee boldly told his brothers that while they were dreaming up ways to avoid work, he was dreaming of being emperor of Phua Ah. This got on their nerves, and after much plotting, they did finally came up with a plan to get rid of Klee. This is a lot like Joseph and the multicolored, technicolor, amazing, psychedelic coat, dream coat, whatever. When he came out to the plains of Chopin to check up on them,
I don't even know what that is.
it's a story in the Bible. It was made into a Andrew Lloyd Webber musical and Tim Rice play. When he came out to the plains of Chopin to check up on them, they grabbed him and sewed him and his fine shorts to the back of a foie bull. Oh, they sewed him to a bull, a foie bull. The brothers then traded Clee and the foie bull to some Chopin pops for some stewed pods. They took these back to Fay and explained that Clee had been trampled in a foie stampede, and that the pods were all that was left of their brother. Fay mourned for 88 years the death of his favorite son, Clee. So Fay lived for a long time before he got smoked. Meanwhile, the Chopin Pops, never noticing Clee sewn to the back of their new foie bull, traded it to the Emperor's herdsman for a pack of Gaza smokes. Now, an emperor likes a clean herd of foie cattle, so his herdsmen scrubbed the foie cattle daily while they were scrubbing the new foie bull that Clee was sewn to. They noticed him crying out and begging to be released. The herdsman released Clee to the custody of Portinchipa, the emperor's bodyguard. Portinchipa made Clee his butler, and Clee took on the responsibility, much as he did, with his father's herd of foie cattle. Portinchipa was not home much, what with all the responsibilities of his own job, but when he was home, he did not fail to notice Clee's meticulous care of the house and household matters. Was it Jacob, one of them that got sold into slavery, one of the sons of Abraham? And
Abraham Lincoln?
No, the biblical, not, maybe it wasn't Abraham, or Jacob's son Joseph, or one of those biblical. This is a very biblical tale, and in Egypt, and he becomes one of the tribes of Israel.
I'm having problems here.
Well, that's too bad. He actually did a better job than Portinchipa would have done himself. Portinchipa would have been jealous, but he enjoyed the spare time too much. In these days, each time Portinchipa had been out on one of his many trips away from home with the emperor, his wife Portinchipa... You can turn that off.
How?
Just turn it off. There's a switch. Where was I? In these days, each time Portinchipa had been out on one of his many trips away from home with the emperor, his wife Portinpipa started making eyes at Clee the way she should only be making eyes at Portinchipa. Clee was no fool. He knew what Portinpipa was up to, so he warned her with the warning his mother always used. He said, "If you don't stop making eyes like that, they're going to get stuck that way." Portinpipa could not stand to be rejected, so she kept making eyes at Clee, and sure enough, her eyes got stuck. She lied to Portinchipa when he came home that night and told him Clee had dressed up like Portinchipa just to get her to make eyes at him. Portinchipa beat Clee to within a foot span of his life, then threw him into jail. But Quater did not forget Clee. Clee once again prospered because of his faithful conduct. After the jailer beat Clee to within a half-foot span of his life, he put Clee in charge of all the prisoners who were in the jail, so that whatever was done there, he was responsible for it. The jailer did not supervise anything under Clee's charge because whatever Clee did always prospered. Clee often told the other prisoners the stories of Father and Quater that he had heard as a boy. Then it came about after these things that the emperor's nephew offended the emperor by besting him at liver juggling. The emperor was furious with his nephew, so he took away his status of emperor's nephew. Oh, I didn't know you could do that. Gave it to some guy who happened to be walking by, and put his nephew in confinement in the jail, the same place where Clee was imprisoned. and the jailer put Klee in charge of the emperor's former nephew, and he took care of him, and he was in confinement for some time. Then the emperor's ex-nephew, who was confined in jail, had a terrible time sleeping one night. He tossed and turned all night long. When Klee came to him in the morning and observed him, behold, he was downhearted, and he asked the former emperor's nephew, who was with him in confinement in jail, "Why is your face so sad today?" Then the former nephew said to him, "Are you blind? Just look at my hair. I've got bedhead, and there is no one to interpret it." He said this because in the kingdom of Fep, bedhead interpretations are used to foretell the future. Then Klee said to him, "Do not interpretations belong to Quater? Let me study your bedhead, please." Then Klee said to him, "This is the interpretation of your bedhead.
Lights are hurting the eyes.
This afternoon the emperor will restore you to the position of emperor's nephew and have you released from jail. Now please do me a kindness by mentioning me to the emperor and get me out of this jail, for I was in fact kidnapped from the land of Foa, and even here I have done nothing that they should have put me into jail." That afternoon the emperor declared that his nephew, who was in jail, should be released and be restored to the position of emperor's nephew. When the emperor was asked what should be done with the guy to whom he, the emperor, had given the nephew status, the emperor said to throw him in jail instead. Oh, wait, that's confusing. So they're throwing the guy that had given the nephew status in jail? The emperor's nephew did not remember Klee. In fact, he forgot him. But Quater did not forget Klee. Now it happened at the end of 2 full years that the emperor woke up one morning with bedhead, and his spirit was troubled. So he sent and called for all the interpreters, and the emperor had them study his bedhead. But there was no one who could interpret it to the emperor. Then the emperor's nephew spoke up, saying, "I would make mention today of my own offenses. The emperor was furious with me, and he put me in confinement in the jail, and I woke up one morning with bedhead. Now a Foa youth was with me in there, a servant of the jailer, and he studied my bedhead, and he did interpret it for me, and it came about that just as he interpreted for me, so it happened I was restored to my status as emperor's nephew." Then the emperor sent and called for Klee, and they hurriedly brought him out of the jail, and when he had shaved himself from head to toe, that is how one was presented to the emperor in those days, and changed his clothes, he came to the emperor, and the emperor said to Klee, "I presume you can see I have bedhead, and no one here can interpret it, but I have heard it is said about you that when you study a bedhead you can interpret it." Klee then answered the emperor, saying, "It is not me. Interpretations of bedhead belong to Quater." The emperor said to Klee, "Behold, study my bedhead." Now Klee said to the emperor, "A terrible drought is coming. It is going to cause skyrocketing inflation and a shortage of foie gherkins and fep jerkins, throw the land into panic, raise prices and drop interest rates, but not before there is a huge surplus of fep jerkins. Now let the emperor look for a man discerning and wise, and set him over the land of Fep. Let the emperor take action to appoint overseers in charge of the land, and let him exact 1/5 of the Fep jerkins of the land of Fep in the time of surplus. Then let them gather all the Fep jerkins of this surplus, and store them up, and let them guard it. And let the surplus become as a reserve for the land during the drought, which will occur in the lands of Foa, and Fep, so that the land may not perish during skyrocketing inflation." The emperor said, "Wow, all that was in my bedhead?" Then he said to his servants, "Can you believe a man like this guy Klee?" So the emperor said to Klee, "Since you've got all the answers, you shall be over my house, and according to your command all my people shall do homage. Only in the throne I will be greater than you. See, I have set you over all the land of Fep." Then the emperor took off his shorts. He had undershorts on underneath, for crying out loud, and put them on Klee. And he had him ride on his second vehicle, and the servants proclaimed before him, "Bow the knee, and set him over all the land of Fep." Oh, wait, and he set him over all the land of Fep. Moreover, the emperor said to Klee, "Though I am the emperor, yet without your permission no one shall raise his hand or foot or left eyebrow in all the land of Fep." And he gave him Gael, the daughter of the guy he beat in a game of wagon hurling the previous day. Thus Klee became prime minister of the neighboring kingdom of Fep. After the period of surplus in Fep, Fez land dried up, and the foie herds wandered away, and a shortage of foie gherkins threw the land of foie into a panic, raising prices and dropping interest rates. The fair boys, Clough, Cluff, Clow, Klimt, Cleft, Clock, Clink, and 5 sons, all of whom fair named Kloppen Hamwinwitz, became fair because fair could not think of another name until the birth of his last son, Klee, were forced to trek out to Fep and trade their prized choppin' metal statues for Fep jerkins, dreading the odious Fep aftertaste. The foie hate Fep jerkins. To them they are dirty. The foie are so conditioned to despise Fep jerkins that just thinking of the Fep aftertaste causes a physical reaction. Simply seeing a Fep jerkin has been known to cause a foie to go pale and become woozy. The odor of Fep jerkin sets off the gag reflex. It is common to hear a foie gentleman say, "I'd rather eat the refuge of my worst enemy than eat Fep jerkins." To which another might respond, "Oh yeah? I'd rather poke myself in the eyes with 6-inch rusty spikes than eat a lousy Fep jerkin." To which another might reply, "Well, I'd rather eat my own head innards after they'd been sucked out through my eye sockets by a great naturally occurring vacuum than eat Fep jerkins." Still another might say, "I'd rather have a full body massage from a servant girl named Gila than eat Fep jerkins." To which everyone would respond, "Huh?"
Note to self, if you ever get some random headache, hit yourself in the head at every angle. It helps.
Would you rather do that than eat a Fep jerkin?
Yeah?
If a foie wants to insult another foie, a popular saying is, "Your mother eats Fep jerkins." It is considered very naughty behavior for foie youngsters to even talk about Fep jerkins. The controversial foie comedian, Ludi Kincaid, once performed an entire live routine of nothing but Fep jerkin jokes. Of course, it was an adults-only performance and was banned in most towns. All the people of Foix, including Fe and his sons, realized they would have to choke down the Fep jerkins and most likely vomit a few times after eating the first 3 or 4, or face certain starvation. Now Klee was the ruler over the land. He was the one who sold to all the people of the land, and Klee's brothers came and bowed down to him with their faces to the ground. When Klee saw his brothers, he
Did what?
He recognized them, but he disguised himself to them and spoke to them with cotton in his cheeks. His brothers ordered 12.5 cases of Fep jerkins. Then Clee gave orders to fill the cases with shorts of great value, and thus it was done for them. So the brothers loaded their foie oxen with the 12.5 cases and departed from there. At the border, Clee had his police stop his brothers. The head policeman said, "May I see your receipt, please?" Clough, the eldest, handed over the receipt to the officer. "Says here you bought 12.5 cases of Feb jerkins. Mind if we take a look inside these here cases?" Clough agreed to let the police search the cases. When these were opened, the police, of course, found the priceless shorts. The brothers were stunned, to say the least. Their hearts sank, and they turned trembling to one another, saying, "What's up with that?" So the police escorted the sons of Feb back to Clee's house. The brothers thought they were done for, but when Clee saw them, he invited them in and fed them delicious snacks prepared with Feb jerkins, of course. While they were eating, after having thrown up at least twice each, Clee had their cases of Fep jerkins filled with the finest Fep shoelaces, such as only the Emperor's family would wear. After dinner, Clee released his brothers, who still did not recognize him, to go on their way home. At the border, Clee had his police stop his brothers. The head policeman said, "May I see your receipt, please?" Clough, the eldest, handed over the receipt to the officer. "Says here you bought 12.5 cases of Fep jerkins. Mind if we take a look inside these here cases?" Clough agreed to let the police search the cases. When these were opened, the police, of course, found the precious shoelaces. The brothers were stunned, to say the least. Their hearts sank, and they turned trembling to one another, saying, "What is up with that?"
Same thing.
So the police escorted the sons of Feb back to Clee's house. The brothers thought they were done for, but when Clee saw them, he invited them in and had them join him in the pool. When they were in the sauna, after swimming, he had their cases of Fep jerkins filled with priceless gauges. After they had all dried off, Clee released his brothers, who still did not recognize him, to go on their way home. At the border, Clee had his police stop his brothers. The head policeman said, "May I see your receipts, please?" Clough, the eldest, handed over the receipt to the officer. "Says here you bought 12.5 cases of Fep jerkins. Mind if we take a look inside these here cases?" Clough, who's an idiot, agreed to let the police search these cases again. When these were opened, the police, of course, found precious gauges. The brothers were stunned. Why would they be? To say the least. Their hearts sank, and they turned trembling to one another,
and over and over,
saying, "What is up with that?"
over.
So the police escorted the sons of Feb back to Clee's house. The brothers thought they were done for, but when Clee saw them, he had them come in and watch a play performed in mime in his private home theater. Then he had them spend the night. While they were sleeping, he had their cases of Fep jerkins filled with humanol interfatch, which is a lot like food. In the morning, after breakfast, Clee released his brothers, who still did not recognize him, to go on their way home. But Clough, the smartest brother, said, "Before we go, I'd like to look in these here cases of Fep jerkins." When he opened one up, of course he found the humanol interfatch. He exclaimed, "What is up with that?" Clee knew he had to let his brothers in on the little deception. Clee said, "I'm in Clee." "Oh, I'm Clee." And the brothers responded, "Who?" Then Clee took the cotton balls out of his cheeks and told them the whole story. He said, "It goes like this. When I came out to the plains of Choppin to check up on you, you grabbed me and sewed my fine shorts to the back of a fwabble. Then you traded me and the fwabble to some choppin' pops for some stowed pods." Clee's brothers went back to Fwa and returned to Fep with their father, Fe, who lived there for only a few years until Quater eventually smote him with a bolt of energy. In all, the Fe family lived in Fep 410 years. Clee, having become ruler of all the land of Fep, was compelled by his people to change his name to Fei-Ni, which means most of which still do not agree. Fei-Ni begat Fei-Ni.
Oh, please tell me this is near the end.
Who begat Wa-Ni, who begat Aker, who looked nothing like his father Wa-Ni, but nonetheless managed to create Ep. Like many generations before him, Aker sang to Ep every night over his crib, using the flaps in his back. In the tradition of Fe, Aker showed all of the love a good parent should show his offspring. He often stared into Ep's face for hours until his eyes grew dry and tired. Ep was full of kindness and generosity, taught by Aker and likely nurtured by his grandfather, Wa-Ni. One day, while Ep and his grandfather were on a long...
That's what he looks like.
trip to the boneyard, Wa-Ni grew ill. Wa-Ni asked Ep to stay with him until he returned home to father, for he was afraid. Ep daubed Wa-Ni's eyebrow with a cool cloth given to him by Aker. Quater opened the sky and let Wa-Ni enter. This was the first time Ep had seen Quater, who was far more marvelous than the legends told. Ep grew to be strong and handsome being, much closer in likeness to Bertbert than any generation before him. Ep became a mighty leader of other beings who saw that he was in favor with Quater. Just as everybody thought that the whole each generation gets worse thing had finally turned around, Ep's own creation came out looking like a pile of something badly burned, so he named him was not alive, so it could not beget anything. And that's the end of the story. And this is Bertbert. And since Bertbert supposedly looked a lot like Quater, that's probably how Quater looked too.
Sort of.
No. All right, and let's see who's next. Numeron.
This is gonna sound cool.
Numeron, and I need a break after that. That was a long one.
What is Numeron made of?
I don't know. We'll read about Numeron, but I need a break.
Good idea. I'm starving. My brain hurts again.